My name is Nancy Schaefer, and I'm from the state of Georgia in the United States.
Secretary Nelson. As I sit here today, I'm extremely concerned about the administration's repeated attacks on some of the most vulnerable communities, and in particular children and pregnant women.
Police department, come out with your hands up!
As it relates to the work of DHS. And in particular, under your leadership, DHS has rescinded the DACA program, and under the leadership of the administration, predating your arrival as secretary, DHS has rescinded the DACA program, putting 700,000 young people at risk of deportation.
I will share with you on the unlimited power of Child Protective Services.
It's the heartbreaking moment a 6-year-old girl is turned over to the state.
It has separated 700 children from their parents at the border since October of 2017, including more than 100 children who are under the age of 4.
I got it.
Wait, see, come on. Hey, officer. Look at this. Look what you're doing to him. Look at him. Come on.
I served in the Georgia State Senate. And after 4 years of viewing the ruthless and unsparing actions of Child Protective Services, also called CPS, which I will use tonight, I wrote a scathing report entitled "The Corrupt Business of Child Protective Services." The report cost me my Senate seat.
The agency has released a directive that allows for more detention of pregnant women to immigrant detention facilities. The agency has instituted a new information sharing system between the Office of Refugee Resettlement and ICE that is likely to have a chilling effect on sponsors.
I'm talking about those children removed from their homes intentionally for profit.
Hey, listen.
Who otherwise would be willing to come forward to provide care for unaccompanied minors, and instead of allowing those children to remain in detention.
Children are seized unnecessarily from their families due to the federal aid created in 1974 entitled the Adoption and Safe Families Act.
Just to let y'all know, I do not consent to this.
The agency has dramatically increased enforcement actions that have left an untold number of both immigrant and U.S. citizen children without one or both parents, leaving some of those children in the child welfare system.
It offers financial incentives to the states that increase adoption numbers. To receive the adoption incentives or bonuses, local CPS must have more children. They must have more merchandise to sell.
I'm going to grab your baby, and don't resist and don't fight me, okay? So move your hands. Please. Move your hands.
Police enter a California home and take a baby boy right out of the arms of his mother.
And then just last Wednesday, the Washington Post reported that you are considering undermining the Flores Agreement, an agreement that ensures standards of care for immigrant children, such as the provision of meals and recreation, and that they are placed in a least restrictive setting as possible.
Funding is available when a child is placed in a foster home with strangers or placed in a mental health facility and medicated, usually against the parents' wishes.
If you cause a scene, you're gonna get arrested, okay?
Cause a scene for
Yeah,
for what? For you guys stopping my children, taking my children?
In the course of carrying out these actions, the administration has routinely provided misleading information to this committee and has even gone so far as to claim that policies such as routinely separating families are carried out in the best interest of the child.
CPS has redefined poor to mean psychologically inferior. Therefore, it is in the best interest of the child to be removed. Best interest, of course, has also been redefined at the child's expense.
Which many consider to be cruel. So my question to you is, last Thursday, when the New York Times reported that the president has directed you to separate parents from children when they cross into the United States as a way to deter illegal immigration, is that correct? Have you been directed to separate parents from children as a method of deterrence of undocumented immigration?
It has been reported over and over that 6 times as many children die in foster care than in the general public. Once a child is legally kidnapped and placed in official safety, the child is far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation and or rape.
Stop. Stop.
We're not hurting anybody. She doesn't have a choice.
I have not been directed to do that for purposes of deterrence, no.
What purpose have you been given for separating parents from their children?
Case workers and social workers are often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence, and they seek wrongly to terminate parental rights while being protected by state immunity.
After the family didn't answer the door, police broke it down.
So my decision has been that anyone who breaks the law will be prosecuted. If you're a parent or you're a single person or you happen to have a family, if you cross between the ports of entry, we will refer you for prosecution. You've broken U.S. law.
At an April 26th hearing, I asked Undersecretary James McCammett to provide me with what percentage of cases exist in your agency where a child has been separated from a parent or guardian since October of 2017, wherein the case resulted in trafficking charges. I've not been given that information. Can you provide that to me?
There is a huge bureaucracy made up of judges, court-appointed attorneys, guardian ad litems, social workers, state employees, court investigators, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, foster parents, adoptive parents, and on, who are looking to the children in state care for their job security.
Yeah. Look at this.
Okay. One second.
I love you.
I do not have it now, but yes, I will provide it to you.
Okay, can you do that by the end of next week?
If we have the information, yes.
Thank you. I also asked that I be provided with what training and procedures are being given to CBP officers as it relates to how they are instructed to carry out family separation.
Judges have control over private living arrangements and income of 48.3 million Americans. The United States Census Bureau reported in 2002 that 40 billion in transfer payments were made between households of custody parents and other parents.
He pulled my hair.
Well, when you act like an idiot, that's what happens.
I've not received that information. Do you have that today?
No, you have not asked me for it, so I do not have it. But
no,
I'm
I
happy
asked
to give
him
it
for
to you.
Okay, so again, by the end of next week, please.
Can you explain a little more what you're looking for?
Sure. So your agency will be separating children from their parents.
Fathers are victims of this unjust system. Child support payments, even without having visits with their children, are choking the very life out of fathers. 3 fathers, of whom I am aware and have been in touch with, committed suicide in the last 12 months because they lost the opportunity to even visit with their children. These are crimes against humanity for financial gain.
If you feel that I'm upset, I'm not upset. I'm just frustrated. No problem. But listen. I'm not upset. I'm just frustrated by the whole situation. You know.
Because I have a little boy who's very afraid. So let me deal with him, okay?
Right.
And make sure he's safe, okay? And then we'll deal with the adults later.
And no, what we'll be doing is prosecuting parents who've broken the law, just as we do every day in the United States of America.
I can appreciate that. But if that parent has a 4-year-old child, what do you plan on doing with that child?
The child under law goes to HHS for care and custody.
They will be separated from their parent.
Rights are removed from parents. Human rights, civil rights, and even religious rights. One illustration of what took place in my district is that after so many calls, I decided to call a meeting in one of the counties of my own district. I personally called 37 families that had been in touch with me who had all lost their children, grandchildren. I had them meet me in the library one Saturday morning. We started at 9 o'clock and we ended at 9 o'clock. We had 50 families standing outside the door that could not get in. We didn't have time to talk with them. There was incredible anguish and profound suffering from these families. Some children had been taken off the school bus, taken out of the hospitals, or taken out of their homes in the middle of the night, and even worse. It was just an incredible ordeal.
Just like we do in the United States every day.
So they will be separated from their parent. And my question then is, when you are separating children from their parents, do you have a protocol in place about how that should be done? And are you training the people who will actually remove a child from their parent?
These parents, trapped in the system, become like refugees. They're dazed and glazed and have no one of whom to turn. They do not know what to do, and the loss of their children is devastating. After having worked in this arena for several years, I do not believe that a single child comes out whole after having been in this system. Many foster children make up the homeless population of today.
On how to do that in the least traumatic way, I would hope you do.
I introduced legislation, Senate Bill 415, in my last session. A substitute bill was written at the last minute by the chairman of the Judicial Committee. All the strong points of my bill had been compromised. I was told, accept it, Senator. At least you will get some legislation passed. And I answered with, obviously, you do not know me. I did not come to the Capitol to get legislation passed. I came to make a difference.
Chandler Police Department.
Security cameras recorded officers breaking down the front door of this Chandler family's home.
Chandler Police Department, come out with your hands up!
Train on how to do that. And so the question is, and the request has been, to give us the information about how you are training and what the protocols are for separating a child from their parent.
I placed calls to state senators, representatives in their respective states across the country, asking them to help me with certain families. And I was told, if I help that family, or if I help you, I will lose my job.
Now, this isn't abusive towards these kids.
I'm happy to provide you with the training information.
Thank you. And what steps are being taken, if you can tell me, to ensure that once separated, parent and child, that there will be an opportunity to at least sustain communication between the parent and their child.
Remove, abolish the federal and state financial incentives, and those are taxpayer dollars.
I can't tell you right now because I don't think you're acting, rationally right now.
The children are at HHS, but I'm happy to work with HHS to get you an answer for that.
And I'd like it to be broken down between what you're doing for children over the age of 4 and what you're doing for children under the age of 4. On May 4th, the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics issued a statement on behalf of the organization stating that he is appalled by a new policy by the DHS that will forcibly separate children from their parents. He went on to talk about that they will create stressful experiences like family separation, which can cause irreparable harm, disrupting a child's brain architecture, affecting his or her short and long-term health. And these findings are generally shared by the American Medical Association and many child welfare advocates and professionals.
Parents refuse to vaccinate. Hospital workers call police to seize newborn baby, assault child with dangerous vaccines.
Those dollars have turned CPS into a business that takes children and separates families for money.
Last Tuesday, before Senate appropriations, you testified that you are, quote, working with the community to understand the science as it relates to the impact of such separation. Do you dispute that separating a child from their parent will create and cause trauma for that child?
Open family court. Remove the confidentiality laws. Give parents their rights verbally and in writing.
I want mommy! I can't!
Family rights and parents' rights must be protected. We do not need more influence, like the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child. It's anti-parent, anti-child, and anti-common sense for the family.
I believe the question that was asked to me if I was aware of the information, and what I said is I would be happy to look into the studies. Again, we do not have a policy to separate children from their parents. Our policy is if you break the law, we will prosecute you. You have an option to go to a port of entry and not illegally cross into our country.
Secretary Nielsen.
I even feel that to terminate the rights of parents, the case should be heard before a jury.
We do have a policy in this country as a general matter in the justice system that if someone breaks the law, they will be prosecuted.
Let me remind you that there is case law from state appellate and federal district courts and up to the United States Supreme Court, all of which affirm the constitutionality of the rights of parents to actually be parents to their children.
We also have protocols about what is allowable and not in connection with an arrest, in connection with detention in a jail, in connection with how many hours or days with which we can bring charges or not. So to suggest that the only law in this country relates to what you do at the end is really misleading.
But that's not what I just said, ma'am. If you're asking if we train and we take care of them and we work with HHS, we now have a memorandum of agreement so that we can make sure that the children go to people who are actually family members and who are not traffickers and who won't abuse them.
Great. So those are the policies I'd like to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
There has to be perseverance for any great reform, and great reform is needed in this area. There's biblical law too. It goes like this: speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, and for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. Thank you